Thanks, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here. And thanks, Anjali. I will echo the excitement about this topic because I think there's never been a more exciting time for this bridge between US and Japan culturally around baseball, which has been around for quite some time, but seems to be having a moment. And today we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that and explore how we can not let this moment pass, but use it as a tool to continue to grow that really unique bridge. So I'm a baseball fan. I'm a baseball mom. I'm a baseball lawyer, and so I am biased, but I think this is pretty cool to have both of you up here with me, and I'm super excited to talk to you. So I want to welcome our guests. We have Joan Garcia and Jason Ranne, so thank you for joining us. I think we'll just start by having you introduce yourselves. I'd ask you to just give everybody an explanation of your role, but specifically how that fits within the intersection between Japan and US around the sport of baseball, and then throw in the sleeper question, which I consider to be something that you think is a development in the sport that hasn't gotten enough attention or as much attention as it deserves, and then we can dive deeper into those topics too. So let's start with you, Joan. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. So my name is Joan Garcia. A little background about me. I'm from Barcelona, Spain. I was lucky to come to the US and experience baseball in high school and college. And since then, I've been working in different capacities, different places, in sport events and specifically in baseball. I am currently the sport manager for baseball, softball, and goalball for the LA28 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And a little bit about that role is basically the sport manager is the person, there's one for each sport, right? And the role is to focus on everything that is happening on the field of play. So we want to make sure anything competition related, it's set to the standards, the field of play, the athletes have everything they need so that they can go out and perform and do their thing. So, and once they step out of the field, then there are many other areas within the organizing committee that takes care of them. Very quickly, prior to LA28, I worked for 7 years, during 7 years at the World Baseball Softball Confederation, which is the equivalent of FIFA for baseball, the international federation. They rule over international baseball and all international competition, including World Cups and Premier 12 and the Olympic Games, obviously. Should I answer the questions now? Or?
Sure.
Yep.
Give us your one. It doesn't have to be a big one, but.
So very quickly, the intersection between Japan and USA. So basically, we're talking about the two most influential markets for baseball in the world. And the way I summarize it is right now all roads lead to LA because what we're experiencing with the generational talent from Japan that has united here in LA, obviously also with Dave Roberts' link, to Japan, and all coming together in a couple of years at the Olympic Games. When we talk about international competition, then it doesn't get any straighter than that.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jason Ranne. I'm the president of Global Talent Representation at The Team, formerly branded as Wasserman. I'm here because our agency has a very long history of representing top Japanese talent, both in baseball but also many other sports. And historically, it's been a competitive advantage for us. We actually don't have an office in Japan, but we spend a lot of time there, and our agents spend a lot of time there in terms of cultivating those relationships and looking for opportunities to bring talent to the United States and to the professional leagues, and also to take American talent and bring them over to Japan into their professional leagues or their national team systems. Currently on our roster, we have 6 Japanese descent Major League Baseball players. We have 2 NBA players and a number of Olympic athletes. In terms of what I think is, maybe something people aren't thinking about, this current population of Japanese talent in baseball, but also these other professional sports, it's something that nobody's ever seen, in the history of baseball. I think this year in Major League Baseball is the first time, or it's the most Japanese players in the league in history. It's not an LA-centric thing, although the Dodgers get a lot of attention for Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki. It is a Major League Baseball thing, and there's only more to come. We actively represent multiple players who are going to come over here in the next 3-5 years. And when you look at the younger generations and their what I would call farm system in Japan, the talent level is at an all-time high, and it's being influenced by all the media exposure and the success from the Japanese players in the United States now.
So we'll start with that because I know you represent and your agency represents many of the most prominent athletes across multiple sports, not, as you mentioned, not just baseball. But from your vantage point, what do you think is unique to the U.S.-Japan relationship around baseball that might be distinguished from the other sports like basketball, where you're representing other Japanese talent?
I think the main thing is the Japanese development system is very sophisticated in baseball, and it's very respected from a Major League Baseball and American standpoint. I think you see that in terms of the Little League World Series when you see Team Japan, or you see it in the World Baseball Classic. There's a lot of respect there, and the coaching, the training methods, the facilities in Japan are at a world-class level. It's hard to say that in terms of every other sport. In basketball, for example, despite Rui Hachimura and Yuki Kawamura and Yuta Watanabe having NBA success, the level of development, grassroots programs, amateur programs are nowhere near what they are in baseball, for example. So I think it's that mutual respect that allows the talent evaluators, whether you're an agent or a general manager or a coach in Major League Baseball, there's no bias. Sometimes in some of these other sports, they'll assume that a talent outside of the United States won't be as good or isn't being taught on the same level, and it biases their decision making. Here, they're actively searching for the unique style that a lot of Japanese players can bring, or the talent they can bring, and they don't discount it. As you can see from the contracts that are getting handed out, they value it. They know it can be impactful.
Yeah, if anything, that value has gone up now. That bias is less of an issue the better the players get and the more that we get to see here. So that makes sense. And Joan, from your perspective, I know that you spent, I think you said 7 years at the World Baseball Softball Confederation, and you were overseeing international tournaments like the Premier 12. It was in Japan, Taiwan, Mexico, you mentioned to me before. So you've seen, competition at the highest levels on the international footprint. And I'm curious from your perspective, what your view is on this U.S.-Japanese bridge and how it's evolved over time to where we are now.
Yeah, definitely. It has evolved. I would say that what I've experienced in the last 10 years, to Jason's point, the performance of Japanese teams at all ages, starting U12, U15, U18, U23 World Cups, and then on to the professional tournaments, is one step. Often it feels it's one step above the rest, and the world rankings that WBSC has in place is based on points that they add on across all those tournaments, all those age levels. So often I get the question, hey, why Dominican Republic is not, everybody knows the Dominican Republic's a powerhouse for baseball, why aren't they in the top 5 or sometimes not even in the top 10? And it's because they don't have that grassroots program that puts kids at playing at a high level competition from the very beginning, and then when they get to the top level, all of a sudden, you know, they're the best, really, across, or they are in position, you know, to go play in the best league. So it's no surprise. I think I agree with Jason. It starts from the very bottom. That's not to say USA grassroots programs are not good. The academies that they have, but they found a niche there, or you know, a way to elevate themselves above the rest.
And it will pay off for them in the future because the commercialization around baseball is where we're going to explore next. I know Anjali in her intro mentioned it, but there are more opportunities than ever around the business of baseball. So I'll start with you, Jason, on that topic. I mean, what do you think a player from Japan coming over to play in the MLB, you know, what are opportunities that they have now, you know, in sponsorship, media, social media, that maybe is different than 5-10 years ago?
I think, you know, at the very high end, it's similar. Probably 5-10 years ago, he represented Hideki Matsui, and I think the level of success that he had commercially is similar to what Ohtani is having now. But it's the depth of it, where it's no longer just the one-off exception that's sort of the unusual thing. It's people are trusting to invest from a commercial standpoint, marketing standpoint, into just generally Japanese talent. And they're seeing a return on that investment, both domestically in Japan, but also internationally here, and vice versa for U.S. companies. And I think it's not hard if you go to a Dodgers game and you can see the multitude of sponsorships that are around, or if you want to watch a baseball game globally, it's a lot easier to get on your device than it ever used to be. I think all of that is evidence of the faith that every dollar spent around that talent and the success of that talent is going to get you, consumers to pay attention to your brand.
I definitely noticed it the last time I was at the Dodger game. More opportunities, so that's great. And then let's talk about the international competitions. I mean, how do you think that global audience changes the strategy for players, just around their opportunities to commercialize the sport? Is there a different strategy than you would have for a domestic tournament versus international tournaments?
Yeah, so on the event side, it really depends where the event takes place, what kind of event it is. I think we've seen multiple examples, but the biggest one is really the World Baseball Classic. We're talking about an event that it's in infant stages, really. It's only taken place 6 times, right? And it really started like a demonstration tournament. A lot of players didn't really take it seriously, or it was an inconvenience for some. But once again, teams or nations like Japan show how important international competitions are for them, and little by little, that tournament has added value. And obviously, the main assets here are the players. Everything should be centered around the players, and the better players you have in an event, the more opportunities that the event has to be successful at every level, obviously commercial as well. And for me, I've seen World Baseball Classic from the very beginning, and we were in Orlando this year, and it was amazing. The atmosphere there, everybody's buying into it. The players have bought into it, and commercially speaking, it keeps growing and growing. So it is, to me, it is the biggest example, or the most clear example that we have right in front of us, and it's just the beginning. It's really just scratching the surface. I really think World Baseball Classic can be, up with the top 3, maybe top 5 single sport events in the world in terms of popularity, in terms of commercial value, in terms of everything. So I'm really looking forward to see how that continues to evolve in that front. But we can't forget that there's also the importance of youth tournaments to feed, eventually feed those top tournaments. And I've always been amazed at the attraction that the U18 age level attracts when it comes to international competition, baseball World Cups. Those that have been involved for a few years, we always go back. Remember when we saw Tani playing there? Remember when we saw Price play there? And I believe that those tournaments also deserve a little attention as potentially being good commercial opportunities to keep growing the baseball across the globe.
So I think what you're saying is World Baseball Classic will be the next Super Bowl, and Bad Bunny will be at the 7th inning stretch or something. So, but I can see the potential because this year in particular was just drew a different kind of attention to it, and I think I agree with you. It's a sign of kind of what's to come in the growth. Maybe not Bad Bunny, but we'll find somebody.
Yeah, I actually said, now that I said it was in Orlando, it was in Miami, but really, if you're a baseball fan and you like international competition, I mean, LA 28 is going to be the bomb. We'll talk about that maybe a little later.
It's a good bridge to my next question.
Right, but don't miss the opportunity to check out the classic if you can. It's becoming a very, very special tournament.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Olympics. So what do you think a successful Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2028 looks like for baseball and softball? And I know you're also, you could tell us about goalball. What does that look like? And is there going to be a real Japan-U.S. rivalry? And does that help drive fan engagement? What do you think we should be looking out for?
Oof, okay, there's a lot to. First of all, what I want to say is, when I talk about LA 28 Olympic baseball, I want to make sure people understand that we are heading to a truly unique historical moment. Okay, we are optimistic, very optimistic, that for the first time in Olympic history, the best players around the world will be allowed to participate. Okay, and that's going to take an international competition to a level that we haven't witnessed. I just talked to you about the Classic, right? The Classic is a world championship. It's not comparable with an Olympic platform. What the kind of exposure that tournament is going to get for the players, the main assets, for our sport. And coming out of a Classic where neither USA or Japan made it to the final, I think there is some, chip on both of their shoulders to say, oh, we got to get there and we got to win. It's a 16 tournament. It's going to be ultra competitive, and Japan hasn't qualified yet. Okay, so first they have to go through the qualification system. And very quickly about softball, it's also a very interesting subject because unlike in baseball, the best softball players in the world have participated in the Olympics before. But softball is experiencing an early, also infant growth towards professionalism because historically has been an amateur sport. And there is tremendous excitement and appetite for women's softball. USA and Japan are on a league on their own, or historically, I should say, have been on a league on their own. Every major international competition was, you knew the final, you knew who, and one time we'll go one way, and then the other time we'll go the other way. Now, the gap is getting closer to the next tier of teams, but nevertheless, I think it's going to be a great competition. In this case, in Oklahoma City, that's where softball will take place. And very quickly, goalball. What is goalball, right? That's what many people are wondering. On the Paralympic side, so we organize the Olympics for 2 weeks, and then we take a 2-week break, and then we start with the Paralympics. Goalball is a very fun sport for visually impaired athletes. If I had to explain it very quickly, imagine a tennis court. Instead of a net being in the middle, they have goals or goal nets at each end of the court, and they have to throw a basketball-sized ball with and I'll say it, inside it has like cascabeles in Spanish, and I'm thinking bells, like it rings, when you bounce it, so they can hear it and they try to stop it. It's very dynamic, very fast, super cool. If you put in YouTube, Goalball Paris 2024, you'll get highlights and it'll be cool. And it's a Peacock Theater, so couldn't think of a better, stage, to have something like that. I'll be looking forward to that side of working in the Olympic Games as well. Sorry, I was long.
We get to see all of it, yeah. Okay, it's back to your turn. But I'm curious from like the athlete talent representation perspective. I mean, we have arguably the greatest sort of group or combination of Japanese talent in the MLB in Southern California in particular. So I'm just, and you mentioned this moment that we're about to face with the greatest talent actually participating in baseball in the Olympics. So from your perspective, how does the fact that we have these dominant, powerful Japanese MLB players shaping the narrative around this excitement leading up to the Olympics, and how does that impact the sport after 2028?
I think, for all of the athletes, they love these moments. I mean, it's a chance to play with your countrymen, which they all value. I don't care where you're from. Two, it's a chance to commercialize yourself in another way. And whether it's the World Baseball Classic, the Olympics, the World Cup, any major events like this, the athletes tend to make more money in those years from endorsements, and investment from brands comes in around those events as well. And then there's a pride element to it. Like Joan said, you have to qualify for it. It's hard. If you do win it, it's probably one of the more difficult tournaments to win, in all of sports. And so the idea that you can do that for your country, be on the podium, go home as a country hero, it does resonate with all of them. I don't care how fancy or rich you think they are, that means something to them. It kind of brings them back to their grassroots states in many ways. So all the baseball players, Americans, Japanese, it doesn't matter. They've been very pro playing in the Olympics. It's been a careful road negotiating with Major League Baseball and the owners, and there's economic consequences. They have to adjust the season. There's all these things that make it very complicated. There's venue consequences in terms of open dates and stadiums and all that stuff. So, we're optimistic too that it's going to get figured out, and it's definitely going to be an epic event that it really hasn't happened before.
Yeah, and I imagine some of these players will embrace the opportunity to play together on the same team when they're not always, loving each other across the field. It really is a special opportunity, and I think it'll be exciting to see some of these guys who haven't had the chance to do it before, and the women for softball. So, okay, well, a question for both of you. I mean, I want to make sure that we all not only appreciate this moment, but also think about how we make sure it's not a fleeting moment. And after 2028, particularly the bridge between the U.S. and Japan continues to grow through the sport. So what do you think is something that we should all be doing between now and 2028 to ensure the longevity of this relationship? Who wants to go first?
Okay, so from now until 2028, really my main focus is, like Jason was saying, making sure
MLB players
that
are on
they
the
participate.
Field. Got it.
Because that is really, like, I truly believe that is how we can impact not only USA-Japan relations, but everywhere across the globe. So
yeah.
I like to share a personal experience, because as I told you, I'm from Barcelona, and in 1992 we hosted the Olympic Games. In the Olympic world, Barcelona is sort of like a study case for different reasons. One of them was the transformation of the city, which we Barcelonians have enjoyed for many years since. But one of the big things was the participation of an NBA team for the first time ever, the Dream Team. So those of us that grew up watching Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, especially if you're from LA, that was something else. It was transformational. Now we look back and we say there is a before and after in basketball, in international basketball, since that participation. It led to, all of a sudden, international players thinking, I can compete, I can go to that level, I can be the top player, I can be the first overall pick, in the draft. It's and here we are, with basketball. That tournament wasn't even a tournament. That was really a demonstration tournament. They went there, they had no competition, they smashed everybody, right? So the similarity with baseball is that we have, for the first time, the opportunity to create history. And what comes after, nobody knows. But the difficulties baseball will face to be back in the Olympics are significantly harder than what the NBA had, in terms of not being in the permanent program, in terms of Olympics happening in host countries that don't really have baseball and softball infrastructure, or the difficulties to stop, the league in the middle of their season to play. So challenges, yes, but that doesn't take away that, like I was saying earlier, we're hoping, optimistic that this is going to be like true history, and hopefully what comes after that is as special as the post-Dream Team era.
Yeah, I would. This is going to sound very biased because we're on the player side of the business, but all of you should put a ton of pressure on Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball to let these players play and not have a bad work stoppage in October when their labor deal comes up, because the momentum that is going to come, I think, from the season and then what we've been talking about. If you love baseball, and I would think that people here at this event would understand baseball uniquely compared to a lot of other countries, it is an epic time in the next 2 years, as long as they don't screw it up. And that only way it gets screwed up is if they don't play baseball and they don't let the players play either next season or in the Olympics. beyond that, I think I would bet on the players to take care of the rest. You know, when they get into a tournament with the top talent, they're going to play well. There's going to be some really unusual moments on a global stage in Los Angeles, which is a very diverse community, and you're going to have a bunch of competition. And I think that that will carry the sport on into future Olympics, and obviously with Japan and America still investing at the same levels.
It is nice to watch a baseball game in Los Angeles, and hopefully Oklahoma too. Okay, so as we wrap up, I'll just ask you both, what do you think is the most underutilized opportunity in the U.S.-Japan baseball relationship right now?
I'll go. You did the first one
Yeah.
last time. This is probably not as much of an import-export concept, but I think Japan is just starting to figure out how to commercialize baseball in the same way the West does. I don't know if you've ever been to a game in Japan, but it's still very much like a community asset. The ticketing is very restricted and controlled. Like if you want to buy a ticket on the secondary market, you might be doing it at 7-Eleven or side on the street with a hustler like you used to do in the 90s here. But they do that intentionally because they want people who bought the season tickets to go, and they don't want huge, crazy prices. But I think they're also realizing that they're under-commercializing the talent that they have and the economy that they have, and they can turn them from, you know, just a community asset in most cities to potentially, like we have here, where a small market with the right talent, developed the right way, can become a perennial contender. And obviously then you can commercialize that from a viewership, sponsorship standpoint. And like I said, I feel like they're just getting hip to that. It's going to have to change a little about how their culture is. And then ultimately, you know, some of the talent is going to have to decide to stay probably longer, even, you know, with the way the posting system is. You see things like Roki Sasaki coming over here on a rookie contract versus being posted. I think that could be a negative trend for Japan if they don't figure out how to make it more exciting to stay in country for longer.
Okay, I would say, so two parts to my answer. The first one, on the traditional side of baseball, I would stick to the U18 age level, which I feel Japan has a very strong product nationally with the Koshien tournament and some of their competitions, and so does the US, and I feel like I've always felt like there are possibilities there, because at that age, you kind of know if somebody is a real prospect. And when there is a special talent, you see it. You know, it's not, you know, U12, U15, you kind of, you know, it's a bit too early. But at U18, definitely something I would like, you know, somebody to explore at that level. And a not so traditional one, I would say e-games. I don't need to speak about e-games. I think the next panel will definitely
Part 5.
will explain better about the industry. But back to my days at WBSC, when we just kicked off a program for e-baseball, you know, it took off right away. It took everybody by surprise, and it felt like that was really just the beginning, just not even scratching the surface of what that could be. So again, I'm not an expert, but if I had to pick something, I had to advise somebody to explore potential commercial opportunities, I would say a global e-game tournament for baseball could be something else.
So more video games. More video games will be continued shortly on the next panel. So before we go there, you know, I'll just say just a personal note, because to this question about untapped opportunities, I think we could have gone on with this question for a whole panel, because I really think there are a lot of untapped opportunities. I mentioned I'm a deal lawyer. I personally worked on a deal for a Japanese company that has a WNBA team and doing a partnership with one of the WNBA teams. And it's all about knowledge sharing and partnership and collaboration. And I think sports is such a natural way to do that. And so it's not just limited to baseball, but I see so many opportunities for more collaboration between the U.S. and Japan, and it's just such an exciting time. So thank you both for diving into that today with us. I want to leave a few minutes for questions if anybody has one for our panelists. Sure. Yeah. She'll bring you a mic.
Andy Watkins. It's interesting thinking about baseball and the Olympics when they decided to drop it after '08. And how much the World Baseball Classic has really brought it back to life. And now baseball's growing where it looked like it was shrinking. And I think Ohtani, as big as we know he is, has a huge impact on the world stage. So maybe just talk initially about the IOC's kind of decision to go without baseball. And then Jason, maybe what the post-Ohtani world maybe look like, or what you guys are doing to prepare for that.
Baseball and softball, I'm going to be like plain here. Baseball and softball have a tough time surviving the IOC because the IOC is basically run by non-baseball people. Let's be diplomatic there. So any country that is not a baseball, softball country, that has the infrastructure already built, has zero chance of hosting, getting baseball and softball. They will not vote to build what could end up being a white elephant, as it happens in Athens 2004. And that's why right after that, we were automatically out. They say 2008, that will be your last time. And after that, if Japan, USA, Mexico, maybe a couple more host, then we'll talk about it. So I'm not extremely optimistic about what the future lays for traditional baseball and softball. But I will throw something new at you to finish off, is Baseball 5. Baseball 5 is basically the urban discipline of baseball, created in 2017, 5-on-5. You play on a small court, and it's a co-ed discipline. So it checks all the boxes for an organization like the IOC. Small athletes quota, you can build a court, basically anywhere. You don't need a lot of equipment, no bats, no gloves, no nothing basically. You play with bare hand. And I see Baseball 5 in the Olympics down the road. I don't know how soon. But the way it's growing, and the fact that it's growing in continents like Africa and Southeast Asia, where are not really baseball, softball areas, it gives us more chances for those IOC people that are non-baseball to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, sure. Yeah, people from Africa can play, and if people from other parts of the world can play, then let's talk about it. By the way, Baseball 5 will be in the Youth Olympic Games in Dakar later this year.
Yeah, I think, you guys can Google who's bid on the 32 and 36 Olympics, and you can figure out if they like baseball or not.
32 is Brisbane, Australia. some people would argue that it's a baseball and softball country. They have the infrastructure. Brisbane doesn't. So there are people that are optimistic about Brisbane. It will know at the end of this year. It's a 50-50 shot. After that, 36 seems to be lining up towards India.
And, you know, like whereas our infrastructure to find talent, it's in Latin America, United States, Japan, Korea, and a little bit Taiwan. And that's it. Nobody else cares about baseball. We've represented one Australian in 20 years, even though MLB put an academy there and it didn't work. So I think ultimately that's the problem. And I think that'll be the problem forever, no matter what we do, is that's just where baseball players come from, is where baseball is played, where it's valued, where there's stadiums. I think post-Ohtani, you know, two things on that. I'm firm believers in cultural moments create more talent. So whether you go to the 92 Dream Team basketball, there's a 8-year-old boy, girl who's watching that and wants to be Michael Jordan, who then practices more than anybody else. And they come in that next generation. I think you can plan that out. So I think Ohtani is creating Ohtanis right now, whether, you know, they be in Japan or, you know, other countries that value it. But just baseball in general, these are, you know, large populations in most of the countries where it's played, and you're always going to have a version of Ohtani coming through a baseball system because of, you know, the talent pool that can pull from it. It's very unusual compared to, you know, let's take like a bunch of other Olympic sports where maybe not as many kids are playing it. Soccer, baseball, basketball tend to be, you know, some of the highest participation sports in youth globally, and that's what leads to Ohtanis, is they play it a bunch, they love it, they end up being genetically different in terms of athleticism, and it all goes into the stew, and then you get this magical experience. So I think there'll be more because of the ones that come before them.
One more question from the audience? Sure.
Yeah. You mentioned e-games earlier. Everybody looked at us. Maybe everybody looked at us. But are you specifically meaning a particular form of video game, or you're just referring to video games in general? What do you mean by the e-game international tournament? Thank you.
So there are baseball video games are highly popular across the world. Japan, for sure. It will be at the top of the list, USA. So there is a humongous pool of people that play, whether it's for fun or sometimes, you know, in tournaments or, you know, some sort of national, local competitions. Up until recently, there hasn't been any international competition where somebody from, a gamer from Japan can compete against one from Spain and one from, you know, USA into an actual Olympic Games sort of thing. Yes.
Gaming competitions.
Correct.
That are tournaments, but extending them internationally.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so esports will be.
Well, thank you both so much. Get your tickets to the LA 28 baseball, softball, and goalball events, and throw in some MLB games, and I think we've got you guys covered. But thank you very much for the time, and thanks everybody for your participation.